Hey everybody, it's Fiona May from Women on Transition, and today we're going to talk about what to say when your husband leaves you. And for a lot of ladies, this feels like your world is shattering, and your words are going to matter more than you could imagine through this time. So this guide and this video is going to help you to be able to navigate this unfamiliar territory and for you to be able to come out with some dignity and to minimize the damage that you cause through this period. So wherever you're at, wherever, if this is happening to you right now or you've just been through it, we understand. It happened to me. I had no idea that I was going to hear those words, that I love you, but I'm not in love with you, and that my husband left, and it was something that I was totally unprepared for. So let's jump in and have a look at how we navigate this territory. So, the worst thing we can probably do, and yet it feels the most natural, is to, verbally express ourselves. And sometimes that comes a lot across as anger or frustration, and that leads to unhealthy communication. So between the separation right through to the financial settlement, we call this the crazy period, because a lot of things are said and done that have long-term ramifications. So if I could give you a word of warning for the ladies going through this period, it's just to be able to take a step back, to think before you speak, to be able to be healing and processing your emotions so you can deal with this storm that you're going through. So, sometimes people go into that begging and pleading behavior, and yet this reinforces powerlessness. And your worth isn't determined because of the fact that someone left you. It doesn't mean anything about you, and we've got to hold on to that. We can do the healing and we can do the growth, but in this initial period, you just got to think about, I'm a good person, I've given it my best, I don't understand what's going, and it's totally okay for you to just take some time out to be able to process what is happening in your life right now. So you don't want to be giving threats and ultimatums, even though that's, might feel that it's justified. They do create more tension, and these heightened emotions, we always say when emotion goes up, intellect goes down. And unfortunately, it's a very real situation, because when we're in a state of heightened emotion, we literally cannot think straight. We can't process our thoughts. So it's a good time to be able to just step back a little bit and start to look after yourself and be able to just navigate step by step these initial stages. And I'm talking very specifically here to women who weren't expecting the divorce, who had no time to process. And it feels very unfair because your husband generally has processed this over a long time. And so he's had the ability to be able to know what he's going to do. He's been planning it in a way. And that's not coming from a negative point of view. It's just that men are very linear, logical, in their thinking patterns, and they work through things. And once they've got it clear in their head, it's decision time, it's action time. But for a lot of women, this feels like a bomb has just gone off in their life. Everything they thought was real, everything they thought they knew, what they had planned, it all just disintegrates in a minute. And so these is what takes so long for women to be able to process through this stage. So you don't want to be making any rash decisions at this time. It really is very traumatic to be going through a separation or a divorce. And this is a time where you just want to regroup, you want to get some support, and you want to start navigating your way through. So what to say in the moment? Now, having the feelings, whatever you're feeling, it's legitimate. It's okay. We want you to actually feel your feelings, express your emotions, have a trusted network around you of women who actually understand. And personally, I believe after going through this, not expecting to be ever separated or divorced, and one day being told that, you know, I'm leaving and I'm leaving you, and sometimes people say things that, you know, are justifying their actions, and they can seem really cruel. And you know, women hold on to a lot of what is said in this time. And like I said, it's a crazy time between separation and financial settlement. And so a lot of hurt can be done, and a lot of things are said, and a lot of justifications made. And so it can be a very challenging time for us to be able to get through. So, you know, we want to seek clarity. We want to learn and understand how and why our relationships broke down. So sometimes that means that you just need to request time. Like I said, your husband's probably already done the processing. So you might need to just say, I need some time here. I need to get my head around this. This has come to me like a shock out of the blue. I don't understand what's going. I don't know what caused it. I don't know how we got to this place, but I just need some time to be able to process it. And that's totally okay for you to do that. I would encourage you to establish some healthy boundaries in this time where you don't feel pushed, and you can just deal with the practical things that are coming up. And don't deal with things in anger or in the hurt, because when emotion goes up, intellect goes down. So we want to be processing and before we're making major decisions or agreeing to anything at this stage. So we want to respond in a way that is going to serve us in the long term. So we've got to be playing a long-term game here, ladies. I know how painful this is, and I know that when it happens to you in those initial stages, at first, sometimes you feel like you can't even breathe. You know, you can't even feel like you're going to get through a day, and that's okay. You know, that's where you just take it step by step by step. You have an action plan, and you prioritize the things that need to be done in that day, and you leave the things that aren't that important, and you just focus on getting yourself through. So, you know, maintaining our dignity, not reacting with hurt. Hurt people hurt. And so we want to, you know, just be consciously aware of how we're showing up, what we're saying, what we're doing, and very importantly, the story that we're telling. So, you know, you do deserve treated with respect, and you do deserve to be able to process this at your speed and at your rate, and just being able to ask for, you know, the time to do that is really important. You want to set some limits. So I'm not comfortable continuing this discussion right now. If that's where you're at, that's okay to say that. You need to acknowledge your emotions. You know, don't suppress your emotions and just bury them. If you're feeling angry or you're feeling hurt, I want you to name the feeling that you're feeling. And then you will at least know where that is in your body. Sometimes we feel our stress in our shoulders, or sometimes we feel our nerves in our tummy. So get used to just spending some time every day centering and coming into yourself and just feeling whatever is there for you. Sometimes it's going to be sadness. You know, sometimes you're going to just need to have a really good cry. Having some support around you at this stage is really vital. And don't be afraid to ask people what you actually need. You know, sometimes we need a hug. Sometimes we need, you know, some space. Sometimes we need companionship. Sometimes we just need to get out and clear our head and take our mind off it. So, you know, just be consciously aware of what you need to help you get through this stage. Sometimes if you are still in love with your husband and you're really struggling here, if he's saying that he's committed, he's just, wants time out, or he actually wants to work on the relationship, this is a time that you can have mediation, or you could even have counseling. But I don't want you to go into this blindly. A lot of the time, by the time the decision is made, it's done. And when either party is done and finished, it's just about impossible to change their mind that, let's reinvent this relationship. Listen to what is being said. Listen underneath the words to what's being said, because sometimes people don't want to hurt you, and they might be saying, I love you, but, or, we can work on this. I want to be your friend. I don't want to be angry. I don't want this to cause problems in the family. But that's not saying that I want to be with you. I'm committed to making this relationship work. I want to work with you. Very different things. So don't listen from a point of view of what you're wanting to hear. Listen for the words that are being said. And if your husband's done and he's finished, then the best thing you can do is spend some time on getting into your healing, so then you can come to terms with it and you can accept it, and then you can start to process so you can get over it. None of this is easy, ladies. I'm not, underestimating for 1 minute how hard this is. I went through it. I know Sandra went through it, and it's a step-by-step journey. And that's why we believe it's a transitional journey, and you can't just get over it. Nothing's going to make it quicker than doing your actual healing work. So when you do start to process, when you do start to get your thoughts in order, and this can happen quickly, you don't have to delay your healing. A lot of people ask me, is it too early? We're just going through our separation. I'm just going through, he's just left, he's got a new girlfriend or whatever. And is it too early for me to start healing? And my honest answer is no, it is not too early. We've had ladies who have actually worked with us to make the decision. We've had ladies that have worked with us in just the week after their separation. So I believe the sooner the better, because as I will explain to them, as I've just explained to you, a lot of damage can get done in this initial stage. And so if we know and we're prepared and we're being coached and we've got support, then we can minimize that damage. Now, I know for the ladies that have children, there's a long-held belief that younger children suffer in divorce worse than older children. My experience over the last 8 years doing this work with midlife women is that older children suffer just as much, if not more, than younger children. And older children, they lose their identity, they lose their family, they lose their dad, they lose everything that they thought was real. And it makes them question their own relationships when they didn't see this coming. And, mum's been blindsided. The kids also have been blindsided. So, what we've seen is that adult children really get affected. And, it's right for them to still have a relationship with their dad, the same as it is that they have a relationship with their mum. Although in this period, a lot of things get skewed, and a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of miscommunications, a lot of people just go back into, reclining into their childlike state, put their walls up, put their protection up, and they shield, and then they often soothe, and they sometimes move to unhealthy ways of soothing. So we want to be careful how we're actually dealing with our challenges and our stress. So when we do start to process and we do start to move through this, I think it's really important that we start to focus on the story that we're telling ourselves, because the story we tell ourselves is either going to empower us or it's going to disempower us. And when this happened to me, I went into the story that I'm not good enough, that there's something wrong with me, and that you know, why would he choose another woman over me? You know, why didn't I see this coming? What could have I done differently? And then I started saying that, you know, I was traded in for I said I said a bar girl, because that's who my husband chose. And that story, it got me a bit of sympathy, and it got me a bit of people felt sad for me. They could understand why I was so sad, but it also felt very disempowering to me. And it also felt like I was diminishing myself in that. And so as I started to heal and as I started to grow, I redefined the story I was telling. And I started to say that I was freed up for new opportunities. And that felt much more empowering to me. Also, be very careful the story that you're telling to everybody else, because, you know, at first we go out there and we're justifying, and we're, you know, for me, I was embarrassed, I was ashamed, I was, you know, disappointed, I was hurting. And to a degree, I wanted people to, you know, side with me. And that wore thin very quickly with myself. And also, you know, I didn't feel that it was justified. So I then started to process, and I started to say, actually what I started to do was choose who I told my story to. Sometimes people can be gossipy, and sometimes everyone wants to know your business. And so you have the right to tell your story to the people only that you want to tell it to, and choose those people very carefully. Don't just choose the people who are going to run with it and gossip and use it as a weapon. Have some trusted friends and some confident people around you who will hold you up to a high standard, and choose the story that you tell, that you're going to tell about your separation and divorce. And you don't need to tell anybody anything at the end of the day. And if you do choose to say a story, you could just say that we're not together anymore. And you don't need to explain it any more than that. And I think that's really wise while you're going through this processing stage, and while you're trying to get your head around it and make sense about it. So just limiting the story that you're telling, and then limiting who you're telling it to, I think is really wise counsel here. When you do start to create your new future, start thinking about that you're committed to creating a positive new chapter for you and your life. Because, you know, at the end of the day, if he's gone, he's gone. You know, I've seen also a lot of ladies sit in and waste years of their life hoping, wishing, praying that their husband comes back. And, you know, I want you to really consider if that's a wise decision for you to be making. Because if you got to this stage in your relationship that your husband has left, and if he's not open to working on the marriage, or doing some counseling, or doing some work together, or doing some growth work himself, the chances of your relationship being able to be reinvented so you're both happy and you're both meeting your having your needs met is fairly remote at the end of the day. I actually encourage people to do their own work. Even when they come to me for couples coaching, I say it's really important that your husband does his own work, and it's really important that you do your own work. And then if you want to have a chance at rebuilding your relationship, you then do it as a couple, and you begin to co-create a new relationship. But it only works where you're both committed. And that means that you're going to hold space for each other. You're going to be able to see each other. You're going to be able to feel each other. You're going to be able to share each other's hurt and pain. And you've got to have the tools and the skills to be able to grow through that. So, but for you, regardless of what he decides to do, for you, this is an opportunity for you to create the possibility that life is going to be better for you, that you can reinvent yourself, that you can create a beautiful new life. And we know that this is absolutely possible. We know that if you do personal development and you rediscover your true, authentic self, you will start to see that, for your marriage to get to that place, you'd lost yourself to a large degree within the relationship. So, divorce doesn't have to be devastating. Divorce can be the opportunity for you to create a new life. And so, everyone says that you've got to prioritize your self-care, and that's really important. You need to focus on your well-being. You need to focus on what makes you happy. You need to focus on what you actually want for yourself. And the best thing you can do for your family through this time is to heal yourself. Your kids are going to be confused. They're going to be putting their protection walls up. You don't want to be running down their dad, regardless of how hurt you are. And I understand when you're hurting, sometimes it's very easy to be negative about the father, but regardless of how thinly you slice the lemon, there's always two sides to every story. So your kids are a product of their mum and their dad. And so you holding on to hurt and resentment about their father actually hurts the kids because he's half of them. And so they take that very personally. And we see a lot of mums, unfortunately, getting into the situation of having damaged relationships with their children through this time. We don't want our kids to be pawns in our relationship breakdown. So we don't want you to become estranged from your kids or for you to have challenging relationships because of what either of the parents are saying. And, even if your husband says something negative, don't retaliate with negative back. We want you to be able to grow to the point that you are not allowing his words to affect you or his actions to affect you. Because at this stage, you can learn how to not take on those damaging words. And I want to just encourage you, we can grow through this pain. I know you can. You're strong, you're smart. You might not have the tools right now, but you can get them. And this will give you the pathway forward. It's just like when you start to grow, it's like the door opens and you start to see the sun again. And you start to see that, yes, there is possibilities out there for me. Why would I want to be with someone who can't communicate, who left me in that way and in that situation? Why would I want to go back to that? Let me create a beautiful new life for myself. A support network here is invaluable. And it's not just family and friends, because often our family and friends, they love us, they want to protect us. Often they will side with us. Sometimes what we need is someone to show you there's another way of doing things, how we process and move through the pain rather than just getting stuck in it. We don't want you just getting stuck in the pain at this stage. We believe there's a path to get you the emotional freedom that you want. And it has to start where you're at, right here, right now, wherever you are. It's not your fault. You didn't actually know how to do anything differently than what you have done. I know that you have tried. I know you've been a good wife, you've been a good mum, and this has probably been the biggest shock that you've ever gone through. And so there's no blame here, ladies. We've got to learn to love ourselves, whole and complete where we're at, and believe that we are enough, we are worthy, we are definitely worth fighting for, and we're definitely worth creating a new life. We do not want to waste the rest of our life on something that has happened, but for us to not overthink things, to be able to get out of our head, for us to be able to process, we need to be able to make sense of it. We can't just move on without understanding why and how things happen. So we have 3-day events that I'd love to invite you to. And these 3-day events we hold all around Australia. And these 3-day events will show you, and one, how amazing there's a whole community of women out there who sometimes it feels really lonely when you're going through this. And you might think, I'm the only one who this is happening to. I don't know anybody else in my circle who's separated or divorced. But we bring together in our 3-day events other women just like you who are going through this and who are making the transition from being married to being single and then creating their new life. So look up our 3-day events. We also, if you want to speak to a divorce recovery coach, we do offer free calls. If you're interested in doing some coaching or some work with us, book one of those free calls. Have a talk to one of our divorce recovery coaches. They're specially trained to be able to help you to be able to navigate through this territory, because we know how hard it is. And the third thing we offer is some free resources. We have a membership. We have lots of videos. We have heaps of articles in our Facebook group and on our website. So jump in there, have a look around, and we also offer some coaching programs, so you can find out all about them on our website. But regardless of where you are in your journey, know that you're not alone. Know that there is help out there. And the reason that I started Women on Transition was because when I went through my separation, and especially in those early days, I felt so alone. I felt like nobody understood. I wanted positive, empowering people around me to tell me that I'm going to be okay, that I'm going to get through this. And when I couldn't find that, and when I did my own healing work and had to put it all together myself, I then created Women on Transition to be able to help other ladies. So if we can help you, we would truly love to. Please reach out to us. And like I said, we've got all of those resources out there, lots of free stuff as well as some paid programs. But wherever you're at, we'd love to be able to support you. So I'm Fiona May from Women on Transition, and I hope I've been able to add to your life tonight. Okay, bye for now.